Hey guys, all my friends out there in the world. I know you're just waiting to hear what we're going to talk about in Middle Tennessee politics. This is the Middle Ground Podcast, and I am Gabriel Fancher. You can follow me online at Answer Fancher. I'm on Twitter and Instagram and all the other places out there, like Parler, where all my friends seem to be leaving Facebook and heading off to. I'm also on Rumble and YouTube and I don't know, lots of places out there, including Facebook, where you're probably watching this live right now. But I'm trying to get my voice out into the world, I suppose, right? And this is my little hobby. I enjoy it. It gives me a chance to talk about and to keep up with what's going on here locally. So I'm glad you made time to join me. If I had a sponsor, I would introduce it right now. One of these days, you just wait. I'm going to have a sponsor right here, and it'll be wonderful. So today we'll just talk about, I'm hooked on this cold brew from Starbucks, and it is really good. So anyway, enjoy your Starbucks. Or, look, if you're talking about local coffee here in Middle Tennessee, I just love coffee. That's my favorite. But you guys didn't tune in to hear me talk about coffee. You tuned in today because you wanted to hear about what's going on locally in Murfreesboro and Middle Tennessee politics. And have I got a show for you today? I want to talk about some sad news and some bad news. I want to talk about some of the things that the city council has recently done. And then I also want to talk about Families First, or it's a TANF. That's something that is more along the lines of state politics, but I think it's worth talking about. And also want to talk about the county is rezoning for elementary schools. And so plenty of stuff to talk about. If you have any comments, of course, you're welcome to fire them into the show there. Good morning, Barb in Niagara. Very good to see you on Periscope. Thanks for tuning in. I also have a viewer in Canada, of all places. So anyway, I want to welcome you into the show. Let's start off with talking about how the stock market has hit a record new high, which normally when that happens, you think that the economy is in great shape. But let me be honest, here in Murfreesboro, it doesn't seem to be the case. We've got a going on, and sadly it is highlighted by the closing of City Cafe. The City Cafe has been open for 120 years, and it's going away. Today will be the last day that you can go in there unless someone else comes in and buys it and reopens it, which is always a possibility. But given the current situation of restaurants in I'm not sure, you'd have to get it at a really good price for it to be a worthy business venture. But if you haven't made it into City Cafe, if you live locally and you've never walked through that door, the biscuits they are excellent. So I love the biscuits. It's a great place for breakfast. It's right off the square, right next to the GOP headquarters. And so it'll be closing down. The thing that I love about City Cafe and some of my memories will be the straw poll. And if you live here locally and if you follow local politics, then you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the City Cafe straw poll. It used to be like, it's like probably the only indicator that you get when you're running for a local office. The City Cafe during the lunch crowd would hand out a poll, and you'd mark off who you thought would win or who you're planning to vote for. It was by no means scientific, no mean whatsoever. But the D&J always covered it, and it always made for great conversation. And so I remember going in once I heard about the straw poll when I was running against Miss Ely, who Joyce Ely, former county commissioner here in Rutherford County. I call her Miss Ely because of the spanking she put on me. So anyway, I remember going in and making sure I was voting for myself, to win that straw poll. And so anyway, goodbye City Cafe. We're having a real disconnect between Main Street and Wall Street. And you've heard people talk about it, especially people on the left talk about it. Bernie Sanders in particular talk about this disconnect. And, we'll probably, with a Biden presidency, I imagine you're going to see that spread even further. Um, uh, but it probably would have happened. The spread would probably have occurred no matter who got elected into president, because it just seems that the federal government is far more concerned about Wall Street than they are Main Street. And that's given, I think, the distance between the two and the news coverage. You're not going to find a lot of news outlets covering City Cafe closing, but if a large company was closing, then it would get coverage. So there you go. Anyway, that City Cafe closing. I wonder if they would stick around if the city of Murfreesboro was giving them tax abatement, or if they were buying some land for them. I bring that up because although City Cafe is closing, we are getting a Costco, and a lot of people are excited about that. If you shop at Costco, be sure to give a thumbs up on this video, and mention that you're a Costco fan in the comments. I have shopped there. There's one over in Franklin, Cool Springs area, and so I'm familiar with it. But it feels like people here locally are very, very excited about it. So excited about it that they gave them a tax abatement, $1 million on their property tax every year for the first 5 years. But according to a D&J article that I read today, nice coverage out there, Scott Broden. Thank you so much. According to that article, it looks like the tea just isn't sweet enough for Costco just yet to move to Murfreesboro. They've got over 500 stores in a new Costco opening in Niagara Falls. Thank you, Barb. They have over 500 stores in the U.S., and so I think this will make nearly 550. Don't quote that number, but it's pretty close. But it's not sweet enough, and so they have decided, the city of Murfreesboro City Council unanimously decided to spend $2.4 million tax dollars on some land. I assume that's to expand the road and things of that nature. The things that were interesting in that article that Scott wrote, that if I had Scott on here, I would ask him about, would be, does that 2.4 million, is that including the cost of expanding the roads and things of that nature? Another interesting thing in there was that the article mentioned that they were getting the land at a really good deal, at 50% of the value. And I'm just like, why on earth would someone sell something to the city for half the value? And here's the thing that bothers me about politics is a lot of times elected officials, they tell you it's raining when it's really them peeing on you. And this is an example of that occurring. And maybe it's not an elected official. Sometimes it's appointed officials. So they say they're getting the land at 50% of the value. So it's a great deal. So we should all vote for it. We should all, just be so happy that we have such great deal makers in our city council. I just don't buy it. I don't believe that. I don't. I think that if it was really worth that, then someone else would come in and offer them 60% of the value, and then you'd eventually get it up to the actual value, because that's how you determine value, is what something sells for, in my humble opinion. So and sometimes it's not humble, let's be honest. But anyway, so we've got the city spending that. That doesn't even factor in how much they're spending to build a bridge over the interstate to get over to Costco. Let's see. So they're expecting that the sales tax from, and this is, so the positive news, according to our mayor, Shane McFarland, the positive news on this business is that they're expecting $200 million to be spent every year at that Costco, of which we can expect to collect half of the 2.75% of that sales tax that here comes locally. So those of you that are outside of Tennessee, in Tennessee, we do not have a state income tax. So a lot of people move here because, it's an instant bump in your raise. You get an instant raise, which is great because you're not paying that income tax, but you do pay it in a sales tax, right? If something is on sale, you can buy it even if you don't need it. Well, that's right. You sound like my wife. Look at all these clothes, like they were all on sale. And so the great thing here is, back to this, how they calculate the good news. So again, we get 200 million in sales. right? And then in the state of Tennessee, we don't have a state income tax, but we do have a large sales tax. And in Rutherford County, that is maxed out. I think you have some control over that last 2.75% as to how much you want to stick it to your constituents there inside your county. So we max it out. We're nearly 10% sales tax in Tennessee. So we'll get half. The city of Murfreesboro gets half of that 2.75, that last little cap there, and the other half goes to the county, and they use it for schools and things of that nature. Wow. Barb just typed in that there's a 13% sales tax in Canada. I imagine your guys' income tax is high too. Of course, you don't have to pay for health care. At least that's what we're told around here. So, but here's the deal. Let's go. I'm going to stay focused here. The 200 million, that's not new dollars, right? That's a cannibalization of other sales that would take place otherwise. Like, so if I decide now, because Costco's closer to my house than Sam's, I'm going to go to Costco, right? So I go to Costco and I spend money there that I would have normally spent at Sam's or Walmart or somewhere else. But now I'm spending that money at Costco. And so, yes, Costco will collect. So Costco stands to gain by cannibalizing this, right? But does the city of Murfreesboro really stand to gain all that? Not really, because a lot of those dollars would have been spent already somewhere else, and the city would have collected it. So if you already own a business in Murfreesboro, you got to be wondering, why are we paying these people to come here? Why are we giving them tax incentives and tax abatements and things of that nature? Because you're not getting it. I know I'm not getting it. My real estate business doesn't get any incentives for what it's doing here locally, or how I spend my money and things of that nature. So it's just unfortunate that it's going about. Here's another. You want to hear a fancy made up number from that they just grabbed it right out. Watch out. I'm going to grab another one of these numbers out of the air. If you're watching online, you can see me grabbing numbers out of the air. But the IDB, the Industrial something board, I can't remember off the top of my head, but the IDB, if you want to get an appointment here in like if you want to get appointed to the best board in the county, the IDB board is where to go. Evidently, you get to go out and spend a lot of money on restaurants and things like wine and dine people to try to get them to bring their business here. Always try to get on the IDB board. And if you want to see who has real power, just take a look at that list. Those are the guys that are moving and shaking and have real power here in Rutherford County. But the IDB board, according to some study that they paid for every dollar abated, so every dollar that they don't charge Costco, they're going to get $12.30 in return. That's, I mean, think about the return on investment that is supposedly giving us. So for every dollar they don't give Costco, Costco's sales are projected to give us $12.30 in taxes. And I just, over and over again, you see these numbers that they come in that they say where if we invest money locally by giving these tax abatements, by giving special favors to these local businesses, we're going to increase our tax collection by X amount. And over again, when places like the Beacon Center or some other place studies these numbers, there's nowhere near that kind of numbers that come in. At best, you're getting an equal return. So for every dollar tax abated, you're collecting that dollar. At best, you get a 1-for-1. So that's a bunch of hogwash. That $1 going to get you $12.30. I don't buy it. Neither should you. All right, so that's so we've covered the two of the three things I wanted to cover today. We have covered that the City Cafe is closing. Sad news. We covered that the city has sweetened the tea for Costco to bring them in by giving them some land or buying some land for them. And so, that deal just gets more and more expensive. But finally, the one that I really wanted to talk about was a state issue. The TANF, we call it the Families First here in Tennessee. It is a fund that the federal government gives to each state to help poor families in that state. Currently, in Tennessee, if you qualify, if a family qualifies, they receive around $245 a month. But that fund keeps growing in amount. It was 732 million a year ago, or around a year ago, and now that fund has grown up to, that we're holding on to, up to 741 million. When you talk to when the newspaper, the D&J, I think one of the reporters out of Nashville was covering this one. When they talk to state officials about it, they say that they're saving this money for an economic downturn. And so, and I'm wondering, if we're not in an economic downturn now, like when will we be, right? When do you expect to spend this money? The Beacon Center, which is a right-leaning research center in Nashville, says that this money should be spent, that we shouldn't be holding on to it, that we should be using it for childcare costs, was their suggestion. Another left-leaning center, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it said that we could be using it for educational costs, or just giving the money out to people in general to help them, get through this pandemic, for them to be able to spend, on items that their family needs. Healthcare costs, they keep rising. Anyway, there's lots of things they could be spending this money on rather than just holding on to it. And so, I think that, when you get this money from the federal government, the fear that most of our state reps have is that we are going to build a habit upon it. It's like giving crack to someone, right? Like, so you get this money and all of a sudden you get used to these programs. And so then we got to keep funding those programs because it's hard to take things away. Once you give something to someone, they start depending on it. It's hard to take it away. So their argument is we can't give them this stuff, but the government gives us this money and then we don't use it. And so in this case, we've allowed it to pile up, but you got to do something with it. I'm sure, or you don't get any more, would be my guess. And so I'm thinking, what we already have the Tennessee Hope scholarship where, students and people can go back to school. I would love to see us expand education even more for people here, finding other ways to get them involved. I do think that if you were able to make childcare costs lower, that you could probably get more people involved in their retooling and education, and you could probably get them back to work more quickly as well. Given that we're in this pandemic, I've been hanging out with my Q friends a little too much, probably. Given that that is going on, we're suffering from a she session right now instead of a recession, a she session, because women have left the workforce in huge numbers. And I haven't had a chance to look and see how that has happened, what Middle Tennessee looks like, but I have heard the numbers for the nationally, and we're at a point where women are in the workforce at the same rate that they were before 1995. And so you've got 20 years of women entering the workforce that have been washed away. And so, so the issue here is we have this divide between what men earn and women earn, and they call that gender gap as far as wages go. Economists will tell you that a lot of that gender wage gap relates to the fact that women, when they become pregnant, leave the workforce. And so you miss out on time at work, so experience and things of that nature, pay raises that would occur. And so women leave the workforce and then they come back and they've missed out on that period of time in the workforce. And so what we're finding right now is that because of the COVID-19, a lot of women have left the workforce, and so they're home with the children, and that is unfortunately leading to them to not being in the workforce. So you miss out on, not only do you have future problems because women aren't earning the same amount of money as men, because that you have that gap that spreads, but you also have the problem of they're not in the economy producing. And so you have a fall in GDP because of that. And so both of those things not good. Japan has this issue a lot. They have been trying for 50 years to try to get more women into the workforce. And so, because of the boost that it will provide to GDP. And so we are facing that right now. The last thing I wanted to talk about was the county is rezoning for schools. I am currently in the Rockville Elementary, where I have one child there, and so and was planning on sending more children there. But now, by the looks of it, it looks as if I will be getting rezoned to Barfield Elementary. I saw on YouTube that a lot of people were not happy about rezoning. And I don't blame them, right? Because you buy a house based on the schools, and then, and so you buy a house based on school systems and things of that nature, especially when you have kids, you care about that. And then for you to get rezoned, it's as if you moved, right? And so kids get moved from school to school, and it's frustrating, as a parent, it's very frustrating. I feel for the school board members because they're having to make these tough decisions, and they are tough decisions. They're making these decisions, and they don't have much of a choice because we're growing so fast. So you got to figure out where to put these new schools, things of that nature. And so anyway, I'll have a link in the show notes. So if you are in Rutherford County, if you're in the Christiana area, or Rockville area, or anywhere in between, you're likely getting rezoned for a new elementary school. This is an effort to lower the amount of portables that are being used. A lot of parents have a problem with portables. Given that I was born in a trailer, I don't really worry that much. And I think a portable is a much nicer name for it than trailer. So anyway, let's check out the comments before I close this show out. Let's say Joe Morrell, one of my fraternity brothers. Do you know if the state is receiving taxes from the new online gambling that could go to help fund those programs? Joe, I don't know the answer to that, but I bet we are. Like, that's the only way you get anything through. It feels like the state legislature in Tennessee is if it funds itself. So it at least has to fund itself. So whatever boards and commissions we have set up to run the online gaming, those have to be funded, because otherwise they call it a fiscal note that they stick on these bills when they come through before they become laws. And if you get a fiscal note stuck on you, man, that is a doom. That's how you doom a bill. You say it's going to cost money, and so boom, you toss that out. So I would imagine there is going to be some money. I'm not sure how much, but it's a great question. I will look into it. I'll contact some people and see if I can get an answer. My brother, the wage gap, Dallas Fancher comes in with a question on YouTube. He says the wage gap between men and women is due to negotiation skills. Woo! He's a daring man to say something like that. And you wonder why my brother's never been married. The wage gap between men and women could be related to negotiation skills. It could be. I have not read any studies that say that. Everything that I've always read is that it's, number one, it's due to job selection. That's really important. Women take on different jobs than men, as you might expect a lot of times. Not always, but a lot of times that is the case. And so therefore, you have that separation. Women also sometimes take on jobs that pay less than men. And that, could be, it's related to skills and training, but it also could be just related to time needed and there's a whole host of issues there. But anyway, that's one of the things. Let's see, it's true. And someone, Light of Jade on Periscope, saying it's true. Also, there isn't any major wage gap. You can make the data say just about anything you want it to say, really. So I think that look, dealing with this wage gap is an important discussion. It is, because we want people paid what they are worth, no doubt. And we want people we want our economy to be at full employment as best we can get it there. And as a libertarian, I want it to get there with as little government intervention as possible. So I would want to get rid of the minimum wage laws, like totally gone. Whew, see ya, bye. And which blows people's mind when I say that, but that's that's another conversation for another day, would be my guess, unless somebody wants to continue this talk. Florida just raised their minimum wage to $15 an hour. So if you're looking for a minimum wage job, Florida may be the place to go find it. But what I find is that most people don't want a minimum wage job. They don't. They want a job that pays above minimum wage. And when you raise minimum wage, you make less of those jobs available because you're an employer, unless they're getting money from the government to hire you to make up for the difference, is only going to pay you what you're worth. And if you're not worth the $15 an hour, they're not going to hire you. And my brother is still firing in on this subject here on YouTube. Thank you, Dallas, for tuning in. Most women just accept whatever wage they're offered. So you don't. So you believe, Dallas. Let me get this right. You believe that women only accept what they're offered, and it's because so the wage gap is based on a negotiation thing. I don't know about that, man. I don't know how much water that would hold. Let's see here. So Light of Jade, thanks for tuning in on Periscope. I would say more childcare should be created for women for work and school. Hard to find childcare. You know, it's not hard to find childcare, at least in my opinion, Jade. It's hard to find affordable childcare, right? There's childcare available. If you pay me enough, I'll watch your children. I'll quit teaching school and I'll just hang out at the house and watch your kids. But you're gonna have to pay me a lot to watch little kids. I'm far better with high school students than I am with preschoolers. So, but you know, so Joe Biden, one of his planks of his platform that he's run for office on is that he's wanting to improve the number of child care facilities out there. He also wants to unionize those employees, which, in my opinion, would raise their wages, but it's also going to raise the cost for us normal people out here. And so, anyway, there's going to be some changes for sure in childcare, but childcare is very, very important. He's looking to lower the Head Start age from 4 to 3. Quality childcare, yes, right. You want quality childcare. A lot of times you got to pay for that quality childcare. Let's see here. Any other comments on here? Like, I want to go to massage school to gain more skills, but no childcare. Yes, so I totally agree with you, Light of Jade. I think that if Tennessee would use the money, you know, the $740-some million they have sitting in the bank account right now, if you use that and provide it to people who are wanting to go back to school, and you give them childcare, then more people will go back to school. It's just basic economics. If you provide any incentive that's going to make it cheaper for someone to do something, more people will do it. And so helping with childcare costs is going to make it cheaper and therefore get more people to do it. And we know that getting people educated and learning more skills makes them more employable and therefore grows the economy. Hey, you're in Georgia. Come on up to Tennessee. You know, we got great things going on here, like no state income tax. And so anyway, that is that. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's been a great show. Really enjoyed you guys. I'll be back next Saturday. I do this every Saturday, and I talk about what's going on in Middle Tennessee. I've got a podcast that goes out. You can find me on iTunes, Spotify. Please share the show. Let people know about it. I love that you guys tuned in. Thank you so much. Men and women, I don't know what you mean by that. My brother just commented on YouTube. So we're on YouTube. We're on Facebook Live. We're on Periscope. If I could get Parler to show live videos, I would. I just don't know how to do that yet. So I'm working on that. But anyway, Candace Owen just moved there to Atlanta or to I thought she moved to Tennessee. All these conservative people are moving to Tennessee that make lots of money. And, you know, it's either Tennessee or Texas. That's where you're going, you know, and it looks like Texas is becoming more purple. So Tennessee is deep red. Are you on Instagram? Yes, I am. Answer Fancher on Instagram. Follow me there. You can see pictures of me and my kids and all that jazz, or pictures of houses that I'm listing because I'm a part-time real estate agent. Nashville. She moved to Nashville. Yeah, Candace Owen, very talented lady. She gets a lot of flack because she's a conservative black woman. But you know, she could be any color, and I think people would tune in because she's really, really smart. Florida. Oh, I left Florida out. You're right. Florida is red, Dallas, and they have no state income tax, and they have a beach. You know, we have mountains in Tennessee, which are beautiful. Thank you for sharing my video on Parler. Appreciate that. Awesome. Sweet. Okay. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let's do it again next week. Join me. I'll be here. I start around 9:15 every day, but you can listen anytime on Spotify, on iTunes, and a couple other places, or you can watch the video on all the different outlets because it'll be replayed.